Hey everybody, today we are going to talk about page turners and relationship builders, how reading a book together can help strengthen your marriage. Who'd have thought that was a thing? But hey, I'm Heather from Love How Deep.
And I'm Brian. It's so good to have you here today. And I'm really excited about this topic. I think
I know.
it's one that we didn't do a lot of in the beginning of our marriage, but I feel like we're doing a lot more of it now.
Agreed.
And I definitely see where I think something that's really helped us, and we're hoping that it can help you too.
I agree. So we've got some tips for this, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But I want you to think about your own relationship. And are you in a place where maybe you're struggling to connect? They're like, just for whatever reason, like we know that's a real thing that can happen, where you just feel like you're just on two different wavelengths for some reason. And I think that reading a book together can actually help bring you together in a lot of ways and reignite that connection that you once had, and even build communication. We love to talk about communication.
Yeah, that's right. And I think even too, no matter really if you're struggling to really talk to each other, you feel like you don't have much to talk about, or maybe you're arguing a lot, you're not seeing eye to eye on things. I think no matter where you're at with this, it's something that can be really helpful to you.
It can be helpful. It can be enjoyable. It can help you find something. Like hobbies are always different, right? But maybe it's not looked at as a hobby, or maybe it is. I don't know, but you're doing something together, and that's the key right there. You're doing it together. And when you are communicating and connecting, it's not over the stress in life or the kids' schedules or whatever. It's over something totally different. But before we dive into that, because I feel like we're already going down that rabbit hole of what we're doing today, but before we jump in together, we just want you to follow and subscribe to this channel. Stay up to date on all the things going on with Love How Deep. And there's a button, like, where is it here?
It's the lower left, counterclockwise.
Am I on the right?
For Heather.
One of these isn't help. Help.
You're good. They'll see it. They'll see
Hit the button.
So, yes, please. You'll be able to get all of our great content. You'll be able to get to it immediately. And so we just thank you for the support.
Thank you.
Let's talk about reading, right?
Yes. Okay. You probably think that because we are marriage driven, I don't know, do we say we're marriage experts? I'm scared of that term, whatever it is. You know who we are. That we probably sit around and just read all the marriage books that anyone's ever written, and that we know everything there is to know, and that's all we read. But we're not like that. No, like we do have a lot, and we're going through them just a little bit at a time, but we intersperse that with fictional books, nonfiction books,
that's right,
spiritual books, Bible studies, all kinds of things. Like the genre doesn't matter. So I want you to get that thought out of your head of what book should I do? Or does it only have to be this? No, it doesn't matter. You want to vary that. And
I was going to say real quick, I was once told that, and whatever field of work that you're in, like you're teaching and I'm counseling, and don't necessarily read books completely always about the subject matter, because you can get into a little bit of a rut. And sometimes even reading, I think, fiction books can spark creativity and maybe think about something in a different way. And I guess the whole point of this is to keep your mind open to all the different types of books. And so
I think so. And so was it last summer or the summer before? I can't remember. We decided on a book together. We read Where the Red Fern Grows. I'd never read that as a child, but you had, right? And so we decided we would read it. It's a classic. And so we went to the library and we got our book, and we sat down and we read a little bit at a time, just a little bit at a time. And we're going to get to that timing bit in just a moment. But it was interesting because we're reading about a boy who wants dogs, and I had a dog, but I don't have a dog now, but I have cats, and I understand that love of animals, and so do you. It's just, I don't know. I think we connected through that book.
And it was really neat for me, because again, it just was a book that had so much, I think, great meaning to me. And so it was just something I wanted to share with you and for us to do it together. And I'll never forget when I read it. It was in the wintertime and there was a lot of snow on the ground. I think we even had some time off of school. And I remember I can remember actually laying on the floor. I got a pillow and got the book out and was just reading it, and just, I don't know, it just really joyful as I was reading it. You know,
Just a
can't
good
explain
memory
it
for
any other
you.
way,
A good
right?
memory
And
for
so
you.
just wanting to share that memory with you, I
Right,
thought would be
right.
neat. And I loved how you kept an open mind about it. Again, maybe it wasn't a book that you really read or knew anything about.
I really didn't know
Well,
about it other than it
yeah.
was a very sad book. That's
Mhm.
all I knew. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not reading a sad
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
But it was. And I will
Mhm.
say that like that brought about a connection on an emotional level for us
Mhm.
because there were some tears shed definitely by me. Brian, I don't know if you want to admit anything or not here in front of
Maybe
everyone.
toward the end a
There were
little
some
bit,
tears
got a little
there.
teary eyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just crying with each other over something that's not a real life situation, it's a different kind of tearful moment and connection that we shared. We want to do another one. And so since you chose that one, I'm going to choose the next fiction book that we do, which was a book that I read when I was like fifth or sixth grade. And To Kill a Mockingbird,
Yeah.
another classic.
Yeah, and I read that one as
Yeah.
well. And I remember, I think we even watched the movie,
I've
maybe
seen the
in
movie.
school. So yeah, I'm excited to do this one as well.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And I think it'll be very interesting because I remember being so appalled by the many horrible things that happened in that book and talking to my mom about it, like, how could they? And, as a child. And so as an adult reading it, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of other different things out of it. And we're going to share that together.
Yeah, that's another thing
Yeah.
too. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but yeah, when you read something as an adult, there's something different that you get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think as opposed to when you were a child, maybe you don't have the
Yep.
experiences. But anyway, probably jumping ahead here.
A little
But
bit. Yeah.
so what are we still talking about the types of books?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just one more thing that I wanted to mention about that is I'm in a Bible study in the neighborhood I live in. And there's a book that we were going to read. And that was where I was first introduced to it. And I felt it to be so powerful that I was like, Brian, let me read this to you. This is incredible, like what it meant to me, what it spoke to me, according to some things that we were going through. And then I was like, hey, what if we started going through it? So that was time for me to read it for the second time. And I lead a ladies' Bible study here in my home. And I was like, you know what? We need to get a new book and do a new Bible study. So I'm doing it for a third time because I find that book to be so incredibly powerful. And yeah, so it's just, but it brings about like ideas and thoughts and helps us dig a little bit deeper. And what is the Lord saying to us and through that author and those examples that are given? Like it's powerful and we're growing through it. Yeah, and we just finished that one.
Yep.
So
Good stuff. All right. What else you got? You want to talk a little bit about other types of books? Have we beaten this one to death?
I think we might have. We did mention like really any kind of book, whatever you want to do, and take turns choosing the book. So if I chose the book this time, then he's going to do it next time. And it's okay if you don't agree on it because maybe it's compromise. There's that big C word of, I didn't know that I necessarily wanted to read Where the Red Fern Grows, but we did. And so now it's my turn to choose that, whatever. So y'all understand what I'm saying. Take turns choosing the book, be open-minded.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing, being open-minded. And I don't know if I heard that. Oh, I know what it was. We were at a little mini marriage conference with our friends yesterday. And they had said in the beginning, hey, there may be some things that we talk about here that maybe you're like, oh no, that's not going to work, or that's not for me, or whatever. And he just kept saying, keep an open mind here. Just drop the defenses.
Yeah.
Just, it's like when you're a kid and your parents put, I don't know, some kind of food in front of you that you're like, I don't want that. I'm not going to eat that. And you just basically don't try it because it just looks gross, but maybe you're missing out on
Keep
something.
an open mind.
Yeah, right. So
I had a student say one time that it's called taking a thank you bite. And I love that. I love that. Just be open-minded.
I love that too.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, I know the number one excuse I often hear with doing some of these things is, oh, we don't have time.
Yes.
And that's another thing where it's probably because you're not prioritizing this, number one.
That is true.
I think we can find little pockets of time. And that's really what this thing is all about, right?
Right.
Little pockets of time.
Yes.
You don't have to say, for 2 hours, we're going to spend some time reading. It could be, what,
No.
10 minutes, 15
We never spend
minutes?
2 hours doing it.
Right.
We don't have time for that, or really the desire for that. Yeah, like.
So whatever works for you. It could be, for us, we've started to realize that it's in the morning, I think, is a really good time for us.
Right. Sitting right down here, drinking our coffee and reading our book together.
That's right.
We have time then.
Yeah, and it's easier for us, I think, in the morning. We don't have children at home anymore. We're empty nesters. So we get it if a couple says there's no way in the morning, it is just too
chaotic,
crazy. And even to that, I might say, can you get up 15 minutes earlier? And I know that, again, it's not easy, but that's just one example of something that you can do to not let saying I don't have time in the morning to become an excuse. But mornings could work. What about evenings?
Evenings, like maybe right after dinner, or as you lay down in bed together, you pull the book out and you read a little bit then as well. But I think that, what we're saying here is just look for those little tiny pockets of time and prioritize something like that, because we're telling you, it really does help with your connection. With each other.
And then I would say too, if in the early evening doesn't work, maybe it's at bedtime. I know.
I just said that one.
Yeah, you did. You did. And I'm just reiterating it. You know what? It was interesting. My mind went on to the next topic, and I was thinking about that, and then not really.
I was talking. Y'all.
So I'm going to have to ask for forgiveness on this one later. Yeah. So.
He was busted.
All right. And we're just going to leave that in. It's
real life. Sometimes, even as much as we talk about communication and active listening, sometimes we don't play by those rules.
That's right.
Anyway.
All right.
Yeah. So with that, another excuse. It's too overwhelming to try to read an entire book together. I want to ask you this. How do you read an elephant? One bite at a time. So how do you read a book together? One page at a time. It doesn't even have to be a whole chapter. Like the book I'm doing right now, it's 30 pages long. I don't have the wherewithal to do that. So I look at the headings, the subheadings, or maybe it's just a page and that's it. And my goal is to read that page and get something from it. And that's a book that I'm reading on my own. And with you, it may be a chapter that you read some and I read some and we share. It may be a subheading or a page. And so that's our encouragement to you there, is just one page at a time.
Right. Yeah, I love when you and I can go back and forth. I think that really does break it up. And of course, it gives your brain a little something different, when it's thinking about, reading versus just absorbing and listening. And I think there's different parts of your brain that are activated when it comes to that. Not to get too scientific on this thing, but again, just mixing it up, I think is probably what's key there. This is one of the helpful things, to not feel overwhelmed.
And you don't want to put a time frame on it either. Okay, we're going to do a book a week or a book a month, and we're going to read every single day. You have to, you make a decision to do this together, but then you show grace to each other and to yourselves and say, it's okay if we only read together once this week. That's okay. That's what your week looked like. And you're creating a new habit together, and you jump on the wagon, and then sometimes you fall off the wagon. You jump back on, you fall 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We know all these phrases. We know that's how life is. Be merciful, graceful to yourselves, be kind and loving to yourselves and to each other, and just take all the time that you need.
And it is more than just the reading itself too, right? This is the part, I think this is the part of our talk that I love the most, because it's so much more than just the reading. Like I love when either one of us pauses and we talk a little bit about what we just read, or maybe what stood out to us.
Right.
And maybe I'll ask you, like, hey, do you have anything that stood out to you? Or does it connect up to something maybe that's going on right now in our lives that is helpful as we navigate maybe a tough season or a difficult issue? Those are the moments that I really love. So again, kind of going beyond, I think, the reading.
Yeah, you go beyond the text, and it's like text to self is what that's called. And even if it's a fictional book, like you can connect with that in some kind of way. Like we certainly did when we had our tearful moments at the end and all of that. But it's like you're connecting and you're pausing and you're talking about what just happened. So that happens no matter what kind of book, whatever genre book you're reading.
Yeah. It really is quality over quantity when we talk about reading together. Because, yeah, if you just completely surf through a book together and you don't really stop and pause and reflect, I think you can still get something out of it. But at the same time, we had a pastor, I think, once that would always talk about reading the Bible. He would say, don't read it for like length, read it for depth, meaning that stop and pause and reflect and meditate and maybe potentially asking God, why is this here? What is this about? So yeah, that can be extremely helpful. Yeah. So again, going beyond the reading.
Yeah. There are benefits.
Of course.
Imagine that. There are benefits. And when you're reading something, regardless of the genre, it can spark a memory. Maybe of something that you went through in the past and how you grew from that, what you learned from that. Maybe if you read a sad book about losing a pet, like the one that we did, maybe you understood that because you too have lost a pet. And how did that make you feel? It sparks a memory. And sometimes we forget about good memories or that need to be resurfaced so that you can learn to focus on the good positive things again, or like whatever it is. But it's just sparking those memories and sharing those together again. I think that's such a good benefit for you as a couple. It sparks conversation. Oh my gosh, we're talking and we're not talking about the kids and our jobs and our stresses and our bills. And we're not talking about, are we going to church this week? What does our week look like? You're not talking about that. You're actually talking about something more enjoyable. And so your conversation can be lighthearted rather than, I don't know, filled with stress.
Yeah. I don't know that when I think about us talking about the books and what we read, I don't remember us ever arguing over, well, I think it meant this and I saw it this way. And which I guess it can happen, but I think for us, it really didn't. It was about allowing each other to have our own opinions, and whatever we got out of it was whatever we got out of it. I saw it this way. Okay. You saw it this way. And hey, that's okay. Why did you see it this way? Oh, because, of some experience you had or whatever, something you've been through in your life. And oh, that's why that had more meaning than this. Or it's just fun to, learn more about each other.
I think so.
When it comes to that.
So, and to reiterate something you said a few minutes ago, keep an open mind. And so if you're choosing to do this, to read a book together, choose it together, read it together, you're sparking memories, you're engaging in a good conversation, you're reconnecting as a couple, which is the goal. That's what we want for you, to reconnect as a couple. And do you see how like all this just builds on each other with just something as simple as reading together?
The Lord says the two become one flesh, right? When we get married, and this is just another example of that happening, and it's just a different mode and a way of doing it. And I think sometimes we think a lot about that reading a book, oh, either I have to do this as an alone activity or I have to do it as part of this book club that I belong to, which I know you belong to a book club, but we don't think a lot of times about that it can be an activity for a married couple.
Right.
Why not?
I know. Why not? I know. Yeah. So I just want to just recap just a little bit. Doesn't matter what kind of book and your lack of time, we're encouraging you to find little pockets of time. We are encouraging you to only read what you have time for. So if it's a page, that's okay. Be okay with that. It is quality over quantity, and just dive deeper into it. What is that book saying to you? And just develop a stronger, deeper connection with each other. Yeah. And so, we just encourage you to do that. Try something new.
That's right. And I think before we go, I just want to make sure that I mention that we have an awesome online course on forgiveness. And if you're struggling with a little hurt or maybe a big betrayal, and it is causing you to struggle with communication in your relationship, then I think this would be a great thing to do. And right now we have a great deal where if you go to lovehowdeep.com/forgiveness, and then when you purchase the course, if you put in the code FG19, which we'll make sure we have this wherever you see this video, you'll get it for $19. And it's just a great, easy, inexpensive way to connect with each other. And then hopefully this will be something that maybe spark you jumping in and reading things a little bit more together, to help with what we've talked about today. So with that, I think we are going to wrap it up, and maybe we need to figure out something to read, right?
Yeah. Go get another book.
That's right. All right. Take care until next time.